Hello and welcome back to the program. This is Doug Forrest, and I say back to the program. We're going to talk about what program you're listening to. And with me is Maxine Zucca. Back with me is Maxine Zucca. And Maxine, first of all, welcome. It's always great to be here with you.
Thank you so much for having me on here again.
Thanks. So we're going to talk about, I guess the theme here really is about change. So first of all, you have a change in your title. You were Director of Workforce Operations. You now have a slash added to that, right? Director of Workforce Operations, and Strategic Initiatives.
Yes, that's correct. I wear multiple hats.
Well, I want to talk about, so first of all, for listeners, we're going to talk today about sort of looking back at Searching in San Diego and looking forward to the new version of the podcast. So, but before I do that, say a little bit about what does that mean, Director of Strategic Initiatives? Is this one of those strategic initiatives?
Yes, it is. In fact, Doug, we are really excited to be talking about this particular transition in this episode. I know that our listeners have heard us over the years talk about a variety of different workforce topics and trends, and we're really excited to get this conversation going and looking at additional topics that folks will be able to hear as we move forward.
So I'm going to keep people in a little bit of suspense. We're going to give you the new name of this podcast, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. We're going to make them wait. So first, before we do that, let's look back at Searching in San Diego. And I just want to give people a little bit of the story and history of how this came about. Can you share with our listeners, gosh, this goes back now to, it's got to be
about 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years. So let's go back those 6 years ago and take us through the decision to create a podcast for San Diego.
Yeah. Oh, this is so exciting. So when we're talking about organizations and risk management and taking these risks, like when folks are looking at different risk factors, this was definitely one of them for us about 6 years ago. No one at that time, with the exception of Knob, was doing any type of workforce podcasting. And podcasting was, it wasn't the trend 6 years ago. It was definitely, there were podcasts, but it certainly wasn't kind of the mode of communication and the go-to of communication, especially for people that were constantly on the go and wanted to do like audio listening. So it was a different concept back then. And when we were really taking a look at just our audience in San Diego, our operations, and really trying to tie that into what would be a great digital marketing strategy to really bring the awareness to our job seeking community of what we have to offer at the Career Center Network in their respective areas, in the respective communities that they live in. And so we started to think about, okay, what would that option look like for us outside of flyers, outside of printed materials, outside of email blasts or word of mouth. And so this mode of communication and digital marketing, which was the podcast, was something that kind of came to mind, and we birthed Searching in San Diego about 5.5, 6 years ago. Yeah.
And, I just want to reaffirm what you said about, there was no other when we started, because we, for Workforce 180, we brought this out in 2015 with Knob, but you really were the first ones outside of Knob, really the first, operators to take this in. And then at that time, obviously, I love the name. Do you remember how we came up, or how you came up with the name Searching in San Diego? I didn't come up with it.
No, I know that it was definitely within our team, because I know that we had, through also the leadership of our team, and then also in working with Diana with D, it really able to, I think we honed in on who our actual listeners were at that time. And our focus was really, let's really give this and create this for our job seekers. And so obviously we were the operators of the Career Center Network, America's Job Centers of California. And we wanted to make sure that there was an avenue for our job seekers to, tune in and kind of hear what's going on. If you're not physically in our space, like you could still know what's going on while you're on the go. And so that's how, we just kind of birthed Searching, primarily because the focus audience was our job seekers who were searching for work. And our demographic was San Diego. We were physically located in San Diego, and we really wanted to draw in the job seekers to come to our physical space to attend workshops, to obtain training funds, to seek advice from career counselors, and also meet different employers and business prospects as well, which we invited them onto the show as guest speakers. So that was kind of our initial plan around Searching in San Diego. So,
and I just want to say, I mean, one of the cool things about as we reboot the podcast, and I promise we'll give you that name in a little bit.
I know they're like, just give it to us.
Just give it to us. We can't do that.
They're going to fast forward through this entire episode.
Yeah, they're exactly. They're fast forwarding, right? Exactly. One of the things that I think is kind of cool is that we're not losing that library of content. So if you subscribe to the podcast as a new subscriber, you'll still be able to access all those episodes. And I still think there's a lot of value, especially in recent years, we started to go beyond San Diego and talk about workforce topics that were more broad and more applicable to really any workforce situation. So,
yeah,
right. I mean,
I think that's great, Doug. And I think what I wanted to also just kind of reaffirm and comment is, we really embraced the notion of the podcast, and there really truly is a value in podcasting, not just as a digital marketing strategy, but really as a means to communicate with other individuals and really spreading a wealth of knowledge in a very easy mode of communication, which is a podcast, and so we were really, while it was a risk for us as an organization, because we were the first, kind of local workforce area that really grasped onto this podcast content. And we're like, well, if we have the topic and we have the audience and we know what we're talking about, let's just record it and create an archive, in which we're so thankful for. And like you said, we have this whole archive of all of these episodes over the years that isn't going away. It's something that can be referenced at any point in time, and at any point in time of a person's career trajectory. They could always, get back to that episode, or if now organizations are shifting and need to know topics around how did we get started with creating a health and safety plan, with in light of the pandemic, and what did we do operationally, they can always tune back into those episodes as well. I'm sure as a listener, you're going to want to figure out, okay, well, now what is in it for me, and how can I benefit, from this particular podcast? And we'll make sure to let you know in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. All right. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. Let's tell them what the new name. Do you want to, I think it's only fitting you should do the reveal.
We are shifting from Searching in San Diego over to KRA's The Hub. This is going to be workforce topics and trends in developing workers and strengthening communities. So you're still going to get all of the wonderful insight and subject matter expertise that you're going to need to know on the go. Just come visit KRA's The Hub.
And let's talk about, so, The Hub was it sounds like, actually tell people about the significance of the Hub, because it goes back even beyond the podcast, right? Like there's more to the Hub.
It really does. Yes. I think so the whole idea of the podcast initially, as we're looking back historically, was we're trying to create a space, a centralized space for whether you were a job seeker, a business owner, an employer, if you wanted to be tapped into the network, the ecosystem of workforce from a workforce development standpoint, from a training standpoint, or from a training, education, or economic development standpoint, you'll have a centralized place to access information, obtain the information that you need to bring back to your respective organizations in your specialty area, right? So the podcast Searching in San Diego, that was really kind of one avenue to push out information to our job seeking market. And as we started looking at these different changes, the changes even in the topics of our episodes, when hit about 3 years ago. My gosh, Doug, it's been like 3 years since we've kind of worked on transitional episodes here too. It's
I know.
crazy how quickly time
I
goes
know.
by when you're having fun, right? Recording episodes.
Yep, I know.
But yes, and so, 3 years ago, in light of the pandemic, we started to really shift even outside of San Diego.
That's right.
The mode of communication and just how we were able to really connect with individuals really kind of expanded outside of our geographic area. And we were able to, to bring to light other workforce topics, other workforce trends across the nation. And so really kind of tying it back in full circle to my initial thought of let's create a centralized place for all things workforce that folks would need to know, whether that's, in the form of a podcast, any type of communication channel, there should be some sort of centralized location. And so that's really where the notion of the hub kind of came about, where it's like, okay, well, this is going to be your hub spot. This will be your centralized space specifically for all things workforce that you'll need to go as an operator, if you're a service provider, a business employer, or a job seeker, and given the fact that we are in a really neat space, I would say, with bringing over our content from Searching in San Diego and really archiving it under the hub. I think it's really neat. And so we're rebranding it, but we're not necessarily starting from scratch and cutting everything out from Searching in San Diego. So it's really I would say, just the cherry on top for this type of strategy that we're making right now.
That's right. So I want to tell listeners that there's a lot of great content that you can listen to, especially since the pandemic.
Yes.
We've had many great conversations, and we've had guests who have really shared fantastic content. So I encourage people to listen to that too. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the idea of being a hub for workforce. I think this is a great time for that. I think it's going to be so needed because we're at this really interesting juncture, aren't we? Right? I mean,
yes.
We stopped saying post-COVID, first of all.
Yes.
Everybody stops.
That, yes. I remember the episode where you and I were like, yes, just a couple more months, and then we'll start shifting our area of focus to reopening and talking about all the nuts and bolts of reopening. Yeah. No, that episode we're probably going to archive in a subfolder somewhere.
Exactly. That's right. It turns out we were not great at determining the future. All right. So talk a little bit about some of the, as we talk about what's going to come, right? What's
Mm-hmm.
to come. Talk about some of the things that you're thinking about in terms of, content on the show, what people can expect.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we are still, we're really excited to be bringing new content information around just workforce trends right now. Well, I would say leading up to this point, right? So we've had topics around industries that have plummeted during the pandemic, and then we've also seen some of those same, if not similar, industries that are starting to spike up. And then just kind of the topics that we've been talking about is just within like the healthcare and IT industry. We've also been focusing a lot on construction and infrastructure, and so we're taking some of those industry-led topics. You'll be able to hear more about that under our newly branded podcast, The Hub. We're also taking a look at everyone has seen, I think, a lot of local workforce areas across the nation right now have started to see an increase in different types of funds, so diversified funding streams that are now, being brought out from the federal to the state level and down to our local levels. One of those is the American Rescue Plan Act. So we've dubbed that as ARPA. So for our listeners, I know we use a lot of acronyms these days in workforce development, but it's really around the American Recovery Plan Act, and utilizing those ARPA funds. You'll be able to kind of hear some of the experience around some of the projects that we've operated, and we also would be bringing in some subject matter experts. And so, we do have a lot of great collaborators within the communities that we are serving across the nation that are more than willing to, jump onto this podcast and share wonderful content with everyone around industries such as healthcare, manufacturing, IT, IT, and then also in construction and infrastructure. We started to see during the pandemic, everyone started to shift to teleworking, and now there's different types of modes of working and hybrid models. And so we're really excited to bring a lot of those to bear here on the podcast for our listenership too.
I think this is a really exciting time to reboot the podcast because, if you think about it, between, let's say, 2010 and 2015 or 2015 and 2019, there wasn't, 2010, we were coming out of the recession, but there wasn't really a huge shift between 2010 and 2015. And there wasn't really a huge shift between 2015 and 2019. We are undergoing just an unbelievable seismic shifts, right? In so many areas. And, I think I love the idea of a hub of just centralized knowledge. And I want to explain that, we're going to have guests on, right? One of the great things is that we have access. You have access. I don't have access. You have access. Say we.
We, Doug, we are a team. We do have access.
Yeah. To great guests in all of these fields. And, it's a free resource for some of the biggest challenges that, that workforce is facing right now.
Not only challenges, I would also add just different types of trending tips I would add, because we also, another thing too is while we're talking about additional funds and local workforce boards, and to a young adult who's listening in, they're like, that's great. And how is that going to affect and benefit me? We're going to be bringing on subject matter experts, and we're going to be talking about this TikTok revolution also with resumes now on TikTok. So there's like a TikTok resume that you have. I obviously am not going to be able to demonstrate that. All of these different changes and folks embracing these types of changes. It's a platform that can be used in a variety of different ways. And in the workforce kind of industry, folks are using it to create resumes.
No, it's really cool. There's just so much really interesting stuff. And, it's an amazing evolution to be part of. I actually can't say that I've been part of a podcast that has done, as many episodes as we've done like this. And then to reboot in this way is really exciting. And I think, one of the things that I know about you, Maxine, is, you are someone who's an innovator. And that's why you were willing to take a chance. You were willing to be the first one. It's not easy to be. You ever see those videos where like one person starts dancing on the beach and then another person? It's hard to be the first.
Oh, you mean like the crazy village lady? Yeah, that would be me.
There you go. It's hard to be the first person. Nobody wants to be the first one. Nobody wants, right? Everybody wants to be an innovator, but nobody wants to be that first person. And you're willing to do that. And I'm just excited about where this is going and the evolution of this. And, I really hope that our listeners are as well. And so if you're already subscribed to Searching in San Diego, the podcast will simply become KRA's the hub for you. You'll see the change in the artwork and everything else. If you're listening to this and you're not subscribed, then subscribe and tell 2 friends, at least.
Yes.
Tell two people about it. And, because we want to get the word out and continue to grow. The podcast has a great listenership, but we'd love to get this out, even more.
Yes, no, I really want to be able to take this time to just thank our current listenership and just for their subscription over the years. They also took a chance on us, Doug.
That's true.
And so we really we just are very thankful, for your subscription and just for your constant just listening. Listening to us back and forth on a lot of our different ideas here, but we are all really excited. I think all together, as a group that's under our Searching in San Diego and now are shifting over to KRA's The Hub. We're really excited about this particular transition and change. And to be honest, I'm really, really just very honored to be able to have trailblazed and pioneered, a podcast such as this. So I really hold this near and dear to me. And just seeing it shift and seeing it grow over the years, and just continuing to develop different ways to get information out there so that folks can have communities strengthened. We're developing workers all together. To me, that's just it's what makes everything so much more lively and joyful for me.
Well, Maxine, I really appreciate it. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be with you all these years on Searching in San Diego. Next time we come back, we're going to be on the hub.
Yeah, we'll see you on the hub.
We'll see you on the hub.